Hello and hey, you have reached my section of the meme project. Prepare to feel disappointed. Now, before we have any strong reactions, we must understand what this meme project is all about. It's about sociology. You should probably already know this.
People! Nothing makes Holland mad more mad than
communism.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest for a moment. I don't like communism. And neither should you. Now before you get out your pitchforks, please let me explain for a moment. Certainly the idea behind communism is great actually, where the state controls the means of production and wealth, and not private businesses. Now on the surface that actually sounds pretty good. No more monopolies. No more big businesses hogging all the money pools. And of course an equal distribution of wealth. The problems start to arise once you start to look under the hood. That's when you realize most of these countries are mostly just doomer-filled oligarchies. Mostly a collection of the ultra-rich who are oftentimes connected to those in power. And in those circles of power, paranoia was king. Conspiracy theories were paramount for success, and any perception of competence is always questioned. That's why you'll see a lot of these countries become totalitarian dictatorships, to protect themselves from the outside world. And while they're mostly protected from the outside world, the inside is anything but forgiving. Many people who live in these countries suffer. In these countries, you're taught that the suffering that you go through is beneficial for the rest of society, beneficial for your government, beneficial for your family, beneficial for God. Wait, you can't believe in God in some of these countries. You get the idea. All of a sudden, you start to realize why a other dictatorship also decided to rise around this time, built off of a similar sense of fear for those outside of each other. Fascism is essentially what communist nations ultimately turn into later on. It's only that when Nazi Germany went through it, they were a little bit more blatant with their messaging. But I digress. We must return back to communism. What does this say about communism, and what does this say about what Karl Marx thought? Well, it says that his vision of an egalitarian society is unattainable. It ultimately leads to more misery, and those who are already in power, those who are already rich, those who are already had the influence, will only continue to have the influence, and everyone else suffered immensely. It's no wonder when things like when the Berlin Wall fell, or when Yugoslavia collapsed, or when the Soviet Union collapsed, or when any of these other countries finally decided we should stop doing communism, a lot of people were happy again. It's almost as if the system was rigged from the start.
Hey, stupid! Shut up! You just got Wario Code, mate! Send this to all of your friends to sentence them to 25 years of capitalism!
He never even said anything.
Yeah,
he never said a word to you. Pick that up, you
Fantastic umpires.
Group threat theory is just as bad as it sounds. If you think it sounds bad, well, you're correct, because it is indeed very, very bad. It is in fact so bad that some guy from MIT has a 16-page essay available on group threat theory, available for you to read on the internet right now if you type it in group threat theory. But instead of just telling you just how bad group threat theory is, I'm going to show you. Mainly because it's much more entertaining to show you guys. Welcome to Scientist Land. It's a bunch of scientists in a cage. The scientists here decided the best course of action is to lock themselves in a cage because of their inherited prejudice of anyone who is not a scientist. But what is the perceived threat here? Well, over here we have a bunch of killer robots. These killer robots, well, it is a little bit easy to understand why they are a perceived threat, given the fact that they are very heavily armed. Not to mention the fact that there was an incident not too long ago where a killer robot ended up killing a scientist outside of the cage. With this in mind, the scientists now have a prejudice for anything that is a robot, particularly a killer robot. And all this started because of an altercation outside of the cage, as well as the fact that the robots look threatening. It doesn't matter what actually happened in said confrontation, nor does it matter what the actual mission for the killer robots is. There's always going to be inherited prejudice from the scientists towards the killer robots. Ah yes, Robert K. Martin, a guy that I admittedly forgot about for a while. He created string theory. I guess he also talked about that weird self-fulfilling prophecy thing that was discussed earlier.
Oh, the Renaissance men came into town finally. I literally told you at the beginning the Renaissance men were coming into town. He didn't believe me.
Think of a self-fulfilling prophecy like this. I want the Renaissance men to come into town. And this time, the Renaissance men in fact do come into town. Is that really a self-fulfilled prophecy? I would like to think it is. Alright, on to strain theory. Now you probably have already seen the movie Joker, haven't you? Society! Well, I don't think it was actually like that, but it was close enough. But if you really think about it, his motives of being a frickin' asshole and also becoming the clown prince of crime, you can understand that it was because of society. The strain of society, as according to one Robert Burton, the strain of society encourages crimes to be committed. Thanks for watching my presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If not, then, well, let's go to the next section of the presentation, presented by the one and only Kelsey. Thank you and good night.